You can look, but don't touch. Over the last 52 years, I've been to the Florida Everglades about 30 times. There's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and I've done them both. This is the third largest national park in the lower 48 states, but most of it we can't get into. So let's limit this discussion to the part that everybody does, from Homestead into Flamingo and all the hot spots along the way, plus some secrets a lot of people don't know about. Sure, there are snakes and alligators and crocodiles, but not really much else to worry about. This is Royal Palm, named after the royal palms. But truth is, after every hurricane, there seems to be one fewer. And Hammock Trail is part of Taylor Slough, and it's deep, so it's an alligator hole. Even in the driest season, alligators concentrate here. What is he doing? I thought he had a turtle, but it looks like a turtle-sized rock. Florida is finally sending more water down here after a century of drying up the glades. Finally, it's getting more water. What it does mean is that the wildlife is less concentrated. You don't see as much of it unless you search, in which case you can find it. Swallowtail kites. They actually winter in South America, and in early March they get back to the Everglades for nesting season, and they are coming back in big numbers. They did well. Well, if you see the ear tufts, now you know why they call them double-crested. Maybe I'm assuming too much, but you know Anhinga Trail is named after the anhinga, this bird. This is the #1 thing you need to know about the Everglades. Every trip is different. And Hammock Trail is the most popular, but don't neglect the Gumbo Limbo Trail. Tiptoe slowly through the Gumbo Limbo Trail because it's got secrets, but don't touch anything. There's poison ivy in here, and I think poison wood, and I don't even recognize that. Yeah, poison ivy. I'm here in the middle afternoon. It's better in the morning because there's a lot of northern songbirds, warblers in particular, that will winter over in here, and you'd be surprised at what you can find. Alligators in the wild live about 30 to 50 years, which means when I first met this big guy, he's probably just a baby, and I was just out of puberty. Poison wood. Don't touch it. The Gumbo Limbo tree is often equated with tourists because when tourists sunburn, they peel, just like the bark on this tree. This is the old Ingraham Highway. This was the highway. Now it's just a footpath. And if you're a birder, bird it. Because if you're looking for songbirds in the Everglades, this road is it. Yeah, this is the first of many birding and wildlife surprises you might not find on your own. You'll be walking Gumbo Limbo Trail. You'll see a historical marker for Old Ingraham Highway, talking about how this was the original route to Flamingo. It won't tell you what's just down the path, but I will. This is one of those secrets, hidden lake. If you're at Royal Palm and you come on Old Ingraham Highway, you actually get over to this hidden lake that not a lot of people know about, and it is full of waterfowl. It is full of wading birds. And then there's this guy, the wood stork, right in the road. Driving into Royal Palm, you'll see a sign pointing toward an old Nike missile defense site. That museum's worth a visit all on its own. The sign won't tell you that you can take a left turn and drive to Hidden Lake. You also won't see this around crowds of people. Mama alligator gets nervous when all her babies are just out of the nest, and she's in the shadows watching me, watching her, to make sure neither one of us gets too close. Wading birds, waterfowl, they concentrate in here and like nobody knows about it. I always stop at Pinelands Trail. It's a great pine grove. Part of the Everglades' natural history is fire. Fire has always burned the Everglades. Lightning usually. These days, prescribed burns will happen. This is Pinelands. It's a unique pine grove, and it's been 50 years since they last burned it. Or one. This one's been singed since I was last here. One of the things about the Everglades is 1 foot of elevation makes a huge difference in what kind of plant life you have. So this is a pine forest formed by fire. It cleared out the weeds. This is the most endangered pine community in North America. It didn't used to be unique, but as Miami spread out, finding land that was not totally wet and you can use the wood to build with, most of this got developed, and so here we are. This is a remnant inside Everglades National Park. This is actually a war zone. Mahoganies and all the tropical plants will compete with the pine forest. And if there's no fire, the hardwoods will take over and replace all this. So fire is what keeps this a pine land. Yeah, we're in a pine forest. A pine warbler just sang. And I know that song because in Maine they nest over my house. I do pity the fire crew that has to come in here because this area is just full of limestone sinkholes. Cabbage palm. This is the state tree of Florida. The thing about this tree is it's fire resistant because all of its terminal buds are deep inside the bark protected. Okay, this I've never seen before. A have-a-heart trap baited with eggs. I have no idea what they're after. Pahioki. That was Seminole for river of grass. And is it ever? "52 years ago, there were otters playing in the water down here. Then for 51 years, I didn't see them. But supposedly they're back now. People are seeing them again. This is so exciting. All the years I've been coming here, I've never seen so much water. We're finally starting to get it right. This is Shark River Slough. It's 8 miles wide and inches deep. So many things would have made this a tough environment. Take the grass. That's sawgrass. It's not a real grass. But it is a real saw. It'll be tough to walk through. Well, I guess he told me. All right, Mahogany Hammock Trail, that's one you got to do. So the hammocks are little islands of vegetation, just a little bit higher in elevation, so that the water runs around them. And then this vegetation produces just a little bit of acid, which dissolves the limestone around and deepens the moat. So fire seldom gets into them, and tropical forest grows up instead. Every time I come in here, I think this is what Jurassic Park must have looked like. Even on a hot day, it's shaded in here. These trees are really old, really big, and a canopy that's really dark. Big mahogany tree, which is a clue you should know about. Every time there's a hurricane, one or two of these get knocked over, and they're so big, this is like the last boardwalk to be repaired. It can be closed for a while after a hurricane. So the trees fall, they clobber the boardwalk, or sometimes they just leave them here. Just a thought, but as you're walking the boardwalk, don't touch anything. Poison ivy, lots of it. So the trees are tall, and everything up high gets sunlight. But everything down here has to compete for it. It's shady, and they have to find a way to get to the canopy. One way to fight your way to the top is do what the strangler fig does. It's just a vine that climbs up the tree to the canopy till it gets enough light, and then continues to grow until it strangles the tree and replaces it. And here's another strategy to get to the top. You wait for a big one to die, then you plant your roots in it. Nurse logs, they call them. One thing to look for is bromeliads or air plants in here because there's a lot of them. There are orchids in here, and I don't know what this is. You're probably going to hear this a lot. Chip, cheerio, chip. Spit, see if I care, spit. It's a white-eyed vireo. They are everywhere. But look down, look up, walk slowly, take more time than they recommend because this is another place that just reveals its secrets slowly. Paratus Pond. Some years this is a beehive of activity. Wading birds nesting all along the back edge there. This year, not so much. But what is here this year is white-crowned pigeon. That's actually a Caribbean bird that just barely gets this far north. There aren't even that many in the park. Usually I get them around 9 Mile Pond, but this year, here, every year is different. West Lake, one of the best places to look for crocodiles. In fact, this boat ramp, I often see them there, but not today. One thing that has not changed in 50 years, the crows are beggars.
Crow's getting a little bold.
Wow. They rebuilt this boardwalk. This was in pitiful shape for, well, most of the time I've been on it. Whenever a hurricane comes through, this boardwalk tends to get hit harder than anything else. And they've really widened it out and made it very smooth for wheelchairs. Well done, National Park Service. So I've been coming to here for half a century or more, and I still can't tell the difference between red, black, and white mangroves. So these are white mangroves, and actually they're not that common along the coast. Ah, West Lake. It's been 50 years since I last paddled this lake, and it's going to be another 50 before I do it again. Mrazek Pond. This is always worth a stop because sometimes when the water level is right, when the season is right, when the temperature is right, the ducks and the wading birds will just come right in close. And because they're used to people standing right here, they don't care. They'll let you film them, watch them, talk to them as much as you want. Once you reach Flamingo, everything changes. Lots of stuff is concentrated right here. Start at the visitor center, but you'll quickly end up at the marina. Florida Bay is on this side, Buttonwood Canal is on this side, leading all the way up to Whitewater Bay. You're probably on your way to the new lodge, or maybe the eco tents, or most likely the campgrounds. RVs and trailers over here in the T loop, tents in A loop. This is B and C loop, but they closed years ago. Coastal Prairie Trail is at the end. This was the walk-in campground, but that got closed more recently. And Eco Pond is here. Now, let me explain. If you're camping at Flamingo and want to know every bird you're hearing, you could use the Cornell Lab of Ornithology app, Merlin, for sound ID, or just take my word for it. If you know every sound made by a northern mockingbird, red-bellied woodpecker, prairie warbler, white-eyed vireo, and northern cardinal, you're done. If you want to meet every black vulture, turkey vulture, and American crow in the park, just leave food unattended on your picnic table. Okay, one of those secrets you might not realize, but there's the T loop, which is where all the campers and Winnebagos are. There's the A loop, where all the tents are. And then beyond A, there's B and C. B and C eventually closed down. More was added to the T loop. And now this is a great place to walk first thing in the morning if you are camping an A loop, because there can be a lot of songbirds in here where not many people go. Sunrise over Florida Bay, boy, that hasn't changed in 52 years. Tell you what has changed, manatees swimming by. Didn't used to see those. All right, pro tip, not a lot of people are gonna know this, but right along Bayside Campground, which is now closed, there's a long stretch of mud along the ocean's edge, and that's where shorebirds are gonna gather at the right tides. Something else that hasn't changed, young white ibis in a national park doesn't know enough to be afraid of me. Another pro tip, when you're out here first thing in the morning, you might not see mosquitoes, but you'll see no-see-ums, so bring your repellent. For the most part, the Everglades are the same, but there are some changes if you've been coming long enough. This is a big one. Bayside Campground. This used to be the place where you walked in with your tent and pitched it underneath palms. Well, the palms are gone, all washed away by salt water because the ocean level is rising. Hurricanes are getting worse. This field now gets too muddy to camp on, so it's no longer a campground. If there's one place that has been a constant change, it's Eco Pond. For instance, on the first time I ever came here, there was no Eco Pond. Eco Pond was just a wastewater treatment lagoon, served mostly the motel units that disappeared with one hurricane. Second time I came, it was a pond, but not a big one. Third time I came, they had bulldozed it out really wide. And what's really strange is that it was all open and bare, and now it's all tree-lined. There used to be an observation deck, but one thing hurricanes do is rearrange everything. Another big change just since the last time I was here. There's now more water in the park. Birds are more dispersed. This used to be a rookery and even a nesting area for some of the wading birds. And they're not here now. Even the alligators don't seem to come in here. I haven't seen one yet. For at least several decades, this has actually been a good place to look for painted bunting. They're a little elusive, but they're in here. Of course, when they built Eco Pond, they just bulldozed the banks up high. And once you've got a change in elevation, all the tropical hardwoods take over. So they're just filling in big time. And right behind it is what should be here, the coastal prairie. The only vegetation that can grow out here is vegetation that doesn't mind getting flooded for long periods now and then. Over there on the tree line, it doesn't take more than a foot change in elevation to make a huge change in what kind of hardwood there is. One big disappointment. There used to be a lot of mammals around, and then Burmese python were introduced to the Everglades, and they ate everything. This road at dusk was lined with marsh rabbits. Bobcats would come in right close to the campground every morning. During breakfast, raccoons would come to see if they could raid your campsite. I now haven't seen a raccoon in 15 years. If there's one trail I've never done enough, it's the Coastal Prairie Trail. Stagnant water. There shouldn't be any mosquitoes in that, right? This is a long one, most of it going through the Coastal Prairie. Eventually gets to a primitive campsite, but that's miles away, and I've never made it that far. If it's been wet recently, it can get muddy too. Today's perfect. If there's one bird that has it all going on, it's white pelicans. They eat seafood all day, and when it's time to have fun, they just go up and soar around. Three different species of swallow up, bank, tree, and an occasional barn, which really should be in South America, but I guess close enough. Oh, geez. A choice. What's it doing? Not many raptors up. There's an eagle. Ooh, that's an adult. Now, let's do Bayshore Loop. See if anything's down by the water. Aha! Red mangrove and black mangrove. I can tell them apart now. In the mangroves right along the edge of the bay, you usually find a few individuals foraging close, but not big flocks. In all of Everglades National Park, there's no busier place than the Flamingo Marina. Humans and wildlife are so crowded in together that they're used to it. Laughing gulls just sit next to you, joined by brown pelicans. Manatees pop up so close you can touch them. Crocodiles lounge so close you can touch them, but don't. Incidentally, the way to tell the difference from alligators, crocodiles have a narrower snout, and you can see their teeth, kinda smiling at you. This osprey has picked the busiest place to nest, right above the canoe launch. If anyone gets too close, she just poops on them. What are you looking at? From the Flamingo Marina, there are two directions to go and rentable boats to get there. I usually rent a canoe or kayak out of Florida Bay. But today I'm taking the backcountry boat tour up Buttonwood Canal.
As we go along the canal, of course, I'm going to point out different plants and trees along the way, and so we'll just keep watching for various and sundry things.
Wading birds constantly pop up in the mangroves.
So they're all going to be in this tree up here, this buttonwood tree, at about 11 o'clock.
Alligators like fresh water, but this is salty water, which the American crocodiles prefer. I wonder if the canoeists know how many crocodiles they're paddling with.
So this guy, he's probably in that 5-year-old range. He's a good size. Just kind of draped over that, like, okay.
Finally out on Coot Bay, which leads to Whitewater Bay, which is a whole nother world out there. The other way to get slightly off the beaten track is to walk a trail. There are 5 of them around Flamingo, including the Coastal Prairie Trail, which we already did. I love the Bear Lake Trail, but it was a wet winter and the trail's a little beat up, so I'm skipping it this time. Then there's Christian Point Trail, Rowdy Bend Trail, and Snake Bite Trail. Christian Point Trail, don't do it. Ever since Hurricane Irma, it's been just a horrible mess. If you want to see climate change in action, Hurricane Irma killed off an entire patch of forest. Saltwater intrusions, sea level rise, they're all dead. The entrance boardwalk is broken, and the trail is so wet that the wading birds think it belongs to them. Rowdy Bend Trail. This one's up to you. I find it boring. I'll do Snake Bite. Now, Snake Bite, that's one of my favorite trails. It's a nice walk through the woods, really birdy, and sometimes really buggy, so be prepared. A couple of times the mosquitoes were so thick I jumped this gate running back out of the woods. The Everglades. I've been 30 times because every time I come is different.